welcome to our first Dream Job webinar of December 2023. I'm Danny Rubin, the founder of Rubin. We provide online resources for business communication skills, helping students to write and speak and communicate for opportunities. And today we're talking about being a flight attendant. I'm really excited for this conversation because there's so many questions I have just observing flight attendants over the years, wondering what that job is really like behind the scenes and what's going on while we're flying around. And we're going to get into that with Ben and Liam, two flight attendants for United. Liam flies domestically, Ben internationally. And we will learn all about that in just a couple of minutes. So gentlemen, hang tight and we will dive into the discussion. Jenny is here providing sign language services. Alexis is here. And you can go into the, turn off your video, Alexis, and hang out in the chat. If you have questions, she'll be there to answer for you. I want to start off with some news and notes, as we always do, and share, if you've been with us before, and actually, can I see any hands up? Who is here for the first time? Who's a first timer to one of our sessions? See some hands. So what we love to do, we haven't been, it's fair. What we love to do is give out free resources for communication skills. And today we're giving out resources for life skills. The activities are how to shake somebody's hand, how to hold a face-to-face conversation, take a headshot, sign your name in cursive, email your teacher politely about a poor grade, and learn to respect other people's opinions. It's all in a Google Drive folder. No cost. We just love to give out high quality resources. If you don't have these resources from us and you would like them, all you have to do is go to the chat right now. This is for the teachers here, not the students directly, but to the teachers. Type the word interested and your email address. Interested and your email address. And if you are new to our community, not been here, not familiar, we will send you a calendar invite for Thursday, tomorrow, for just a few minutes to meet with you and help you locate these items and help you to share them, not just with your class, but with your school. So look for an invite on your calendar if you are new to us. And again, put your name and email if you would like these resources. And we'll try to mention it again at the end. We got a lot to pack in today, but we'll make a quick mention at the end. Two more things to note, and you continue to put your name and email if you'd like. Two more things to note. Everybody here today joining us live, we're going to send you a certificate on Thursday for being here, showing completion of attending our Dream Job webinar. And also, we have one more session in 2023. This one will be very cool too. And actually, the date should change. Sorry, the date should be next week on the 12th. Forgot to update the date. But December 12th, we'll be talking with an athletic director. She's a senior athletic director at Old Dominion University, which is in Virginia, Division I athletics program, learning what it is to work in Division I athletics, which is very cool. And they're, big football, big basketball, big everything. And we're going to talk about that. So with that said, let me pull back and bring in our guest. We're going to talk to our guest today and for a good bit. And at the very end of our session today, after the 12 o'clock hour, we're going to bring in a good friend of mine, a good colleague in career advice, when we're going to talk about resume writing and involve our guests in that as well. But let me bring in our guests, Ben and Liam. I'll let them introduce themselves and tell you what they do with United, and we'll go from there. So Ben, why don't you get us started?
Good morning, everyone, wherever you are. I'm Ben Hirschhaut, and I am a flight attendant for United. I'm an international purser, so essentially I have the qualification to be the flight manager for the international flights. I just wanted to preface all of this by saying we are doing our best. Liam and I happen to both ironically work for the same company, but we're sort of giving you a general overview of the position. We kind of have our biases because of where we work, but it's mostly trying to be a general approach to sort of understanding what we do and a little bit about the job. But I've been flying for 6 years. I'm based in Newark, New Jersey, and I live in New York City. And I look forward to speaking to all of you and having a great discussion over this next hour.
Thank you so much. And Liam, go ahead with your background.
So just to clarify, you see Bill Franklin on the screen, or did
It
you
says
already?
Liam. It says
Oh, it
Liam.
does say Liam. Oh, sweet.
We're good.
So anyway, so given name is William, I go by Liam because it sounds younger and more hip for the career field. So I'm retired from the Air Force, and I am much more junior in the career than Ben. I just became a flight attendant 13 months ago, and my childhood friends ask me if I like it, and I say no, and I pause for effect. I love it. So I'm happy to share my experiences. I have flown a few international flights, but in my military career and in my post-military life, I've traveled extensively internationally. So at this point in my life, I kind of wanted to see more of our country.
And let's start right there, Liam. You said you don't just no, I don't like it. I love it. Why do you answer that way?
Because I am one of the most gregarious people in the world, according to people I've met. And it does not feel like work. It feels like I'm hosting friends in my condo at 35,000 feet. And I mean that sincerely.
Wow, I love that answer. And as we get into the conversation, I want to invite teachers and students to go to the Q&A along the bottom of Zoom and start putting your own questions in the Q&A. Put your name and your school so we can give proper credit, but start putting your questions in. All right, so Ben, take us through sort of a day in the life. And today is probably a good example because after this interview, you're actually going to work. So take us through what today might look like and what it is to be a flight attendant on this particular day, December 6th.
All right, so it's about 11:38 here. I'm in New York City, and I have a trip this afternoon, and it checks in at 3:30 p.m. So I have to be at the airport at my gate at 3:30 p.m. So before then, I need to make sure my work device, which has all of our manuals and all of our everything we need, passenger info, manuals, safety, security information, need to make sure that's charged. I get my uniform ready, and then I hop on the train to work. I get to the gate, I meet my crew. It's for my airline specifically, in my base, there's roughly 6,000 flight attendants. There's about 27,000 flight attendants in my company. But in my base, there's about 6,000 people. So it's very rare that I ever work with the same people. And it's very common that when I do work with people, I'm working with people, who've been flying for much longer than I have, and even people that have been flying longer than I've even been alive. Um, which you'd be surprised is a really, really amazing thing that, I'm working with somebody who's in their 60s or whatnot, and somehow we're working really well together and we don't know each other before. So you get to the gate, you meet your crew. Everyone has their positions most of the time, so before you're working, which door you're covering in case of an emergency, where your bags go, your responsibilities on the plane. And your crew has a briefing beforehand, kind of discussing. The pilots come out too, and they're sort of like, well, here's the turbulence. Is there anything you need to know about the flight? Et cetera, flight time and all that. Then we do our safety checks. We make sure everything is in good position. Things like oxygen bottles to emergency equipment. We make sure that's good. And then once that's complete, we start boarding, which is an adventure in itself, getting everyone settled, making sure the bags fit, making sure if there's any issues that they're taken care of before the door is closed, making sure people in our exit rows are briefed and aware, making sure we have everything set up in our galleys for the service, making sure that everybody that's on board actually has a seat. It's a lot of little intricate tasks, and that's always the most chaotic part of the flight. And I'm sure Liam will touch on that as well, but depending on, the airplane you're on, Liam and I are trained on Airbus A319, A320, three types of 737, 757, two types of the 767, two types of the 777, and then three types of the 787. So there's always, it's always different every day. We're always sort of on the edge of our seats, for lack of a better metaphor,
Literally.
making sure that we're set up and we're all prepared for the flight and ready to go.
Thank you for that. And I want to ask the group a question, then I'll bring Liam in. he gave a couple of numbers. How many total flight attendants did he say are with the company? Did anybody catch that number? Can you tell me in the chat what number he said? A huge number. I didn't realize it was that many. Well, 6,000 at his base, right, in New York City, I presume, or Newark. Is that what you referred
I'm in
to?
the largest base. Not all bases are that big, but
Okay. And then not 2,700, but 27,000. Thank you, Jabin, for answering that. So the question for Liam, and we talk a lot about communication skills. So if you're constantly getting on planes with other flight attendants that you probably don't know, how important is being, communicating, maybe over communicating at times, or being completely clear that everybody on the team knows what's going on? How does communication play into that, Liam?
Well, it's absolutely critical, certainly. And I'm based in Cleveland, and we have 300 flight attendants here. So I do have the opportunity oftentimes to work with people that I've
Okay.
met before, but there's a kind of a wild card position, I call it, where someone from Newark or Chicago or Denver might be with us. So you're meeting new people. And your presentation, by the way, was excellent. So I'm thrilled with what these folks are learning. You compare notes, and like I said, I've been with the company for 13 months. I'm continually learning. I've noticed how people set up in the galley. If we're serving first class passengers, we have the cocktails, we have the meals. Different people do things differently, and it's important to just pay attention, make mental notes, or even take physical notes. I mean, I'm old school. And by the way, I'm one of those 60-year-old flight attendants
I
that Ben
was, I
was
was wondering
mentioning.
about that.
but
Yeah.
hey,
but
but we
I'm,
work well together.
but I'm young at heart, and I do want to say that while I'm thinking about it, seniority is everything in this business. So in this career, when I got the opportunity and got invited to training, they said, okay, you can come here August 22nd or whatever, 2 weeks later would have been early September. My birthday was 3 days later, but I had wanted to be a flight attendant off and on since 1998. And I even interviewed in 2012 and didn't make it. So kids, keep that in mind. If at first you don't succeed, try again.
Nice.
So just 2 weeks of seniority could mean the difference in you getting the schedule that you're bidding for. Ben, help me out. What else can seniority do for you?
You know,
Vacations?
vacation days, it can help you get, a better schedule of trips for the coming month. It can help you, um,
So the longer you're in, the more, a little bit of
Sure.
flexibility that you
absolutely.
have, which just seems fair.
But
You
again, two
earn
weeks
that
can
over
make a
time.
difference. And one thing I do want to point out, another difference between Ben and I is that even though I could hold what they call a hard line, I prefer ready reserve. So while Ben knows he has a trip, I'm on call right now. I'm at home. The company has to give me 3 hours notice. So I'm generally packed. All I will need to do when I get that phone call, which hopefully doesn't come now and interrupt us, or maybe that would be fun for you to listen to me real quick, talk to crew
That
scheduling.
would be very real world. Yeah.
but I would just need to iron my shirt. I've already showered. I've got my uniform ready to go. And I call it the Christmas-like nature of not knowing a month ahead of time or 3 weeks ahead of time where I'm going. Like I could find out I'm going to go, like the other day, actually, there's another thing called standby. I was on standby. I had to be at the airport at 5 in the morning. And if in the 4 hours from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., if they didn't need me, then they would release me and I would get paid for 5 hours despite only being there 4 hours. But somebody had a flat tire and I ended up flying to San Francisco and then to Nashville. So I had a layover in Nashville. And then the next day I flew to Denver. And then there's a term called deadheading that you may have heard. It's where the company is transporting you back to your home base. They're paying you. You don't necessarily have to be in uniform. You just have to have it available. If someone doesn't make it, someone falls ill, then you take their spot.
Okay. Great. I love this information. And we have a question from Girard High School, right? And let's see, I'll have Ben start this off. The question is about the training. What is the training like? How long? What did you go through? What's it look like? I think that's where a lot of students' heads are if they're looking at this career.
Absolutely.
What's the training like?
So honestly, the training itself was, I mean, it was So my training experience was definitely different than Liam's. Having it been 6 years ago, they've definitely tweaked some things, but training is roughly from our company. For some airlines, it could be as short as like 3 weeks. For some companies, it could be as long as 8 weeks. For United right now, I believe it's 6.5 or 7 weeks. Essentially, it's this was a surprise to a lot of people, is it's very little service training. It's about 99% safety, security, emergency, policies and procedures, evacuation training, so many things that you would never think about. But we have and all the airlines do, they have cabin trainers, so it looks like a real airplane, and your classmates are there, and you need to essentially do everything correctly and evacuate an airplane in 90 seconds. In terms of, a lot of these airlines, they have like smoke fog machines in there to imitate smoke. And honestly, I know it sounds a little unnerving, but it should be reassuring that like 99% of our training, more or less, is that service and safety training in terms of, or safety training in emergencies and kind of planning for a rainy day. And knock on wood, I haven't really had to use most of it, but from there, every year we have our FAA mandated recurrent training where we go over certain parts of the job, including the safety and the emergency training as well. The training was strenuous, but we became a family. My class, we're still in touch. We still have a group chat going. We're all in different bases now, most of us. And it was truly chaotic and stressful, but at the same time, it was one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. And in life, we want, and it's something that goes with this job as well. In our lives, we want control, we want comfort, and we want what's expected. And this job has been amazing in the sense that I've sort of been at the edge of my seat. I've been in situations where I'm, putting out metaphorical fires, putting out issues and resolving things. And ultimately, I feel so empowered. And the training being so strenuous really put me in a position where I feel empowered to handle any type of situation on an airplane. Because, if you're having a medical emergency, you can't call paramedics. We are the paramedics. If you have a fire, God forbid, we don't have firefighters. We are the firefighters.
That was actually a question I wanted to add. It just came up in the chat. I'll ask it to Liam. Karen Hutchins asked, are flight attendants like CPR certified? Like, what kind of training do you have?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
So in my class, there were 83 that started and only 63 passed. And like Ben mentioned, you develop friendships. So I had a Facebook thread with my three sisters saying, oh, so-and-so didn't make it. They left. And my baby sister doesn't mince words. Good. If they don't know what they're doing to keep us safe in there, we don't want them there. So I actually come from the medical admin world early in the Air Force. And the airlines love military, by the way, because we're used to being prompt. We're used to having communication skills, trying to look our best. But yeah, they train us. And not only do they train us in that initial training, but in our particular company, they train us every 18 months. I do want to tell you, if I may, about this medical situation I had. So Ben says he's the purser. That term comes from the nautical world, when the person in charge paid everybody back, in the 1600s and whatever. So I was up front working with the purser and on a flight from, Florida to Newark, actually. And it was Miami to Newark. And the two flight attendants in the back smelled something that just wasn't right. So the purser was busy. So I went back there, and I personally don't have a strong sense of smell. And I smelled it right away, and it kind of affected my temples, and I don't get headaches in life. So I said, yeah, there's definitely a problem. So we let the captain know right away, and the flight was diverted. We got those two female colleagues up to the front, put them on oxygen. Because the flight was delayed so long, we were able to move all the passengers ahead of the wings to keep them safe. And then I ended up going in the back tying something around my face to protect me so that I could be there to get the doors when we landed. So,
What was it? What was the smell?
you know what? The fire department, they never figured it out.
Oh,
It was
wow.
crazy.
Hmm.
But
Well,
we
it's one
ended
of
up,
those situations where you have to sort of figure it out, in the moment, and just remember all your training.
And it's up
right.
to us too. I mean, it's up to us to sort of, obviously the pilots, are obviously a step above us, but we are the eyes and the ears in the cabin for safety reasons, for security, for if something doesn't seem right, it's up to us to coordinate with our crew and sort of have that discussion. Or if we're in a situation where we need to resolve an issue, it's up to us to figure it out, because ultimately, unlike many other jobs, I mean, you work anywhere else, you have your manager with you. And in this case, especially domestically more than anything, internationally, it's a little bit different because there is a qualified person like myself, that ultimately we are the management on board. And
Yeah.
we're all equal in that sense, that it's up to us to determine and figure out how we want to resolve a situation.
I want to ask you, you talked about the majority of the training was around safety and security and emergencies. So, but what we often see flight attendants dealing with are those rude passengers, the customer service, being patient when people are snippy or combative. So where do you learn that? How do you learn to stay cool and handle these people? Because they could pop up, at any time on any flight. And I'm sure you deal with rude people probably on a daily basis. And so I'll go to Liam first. Like, where does that training come in, and how do you prepare for that?
They do touch on that in training for sure. Now, when you've flown, if you've heard the ding ding, those bells, we keep in touch with the intercom. So, and you may have also heard the statement, safety is our top priority, and there's no drinking of personal alcohol you brought on board permitted. So that way we monitor how much alcohol somebody has had, and that can help towards focusing on who could be a problem. But my friends asked me about that. Like I said, I've only been doing this 13 months. I haven't had a problem. I don't know if it's because
I
I'm
hope that
6 foot.
continues.
I don't know if it's because I'm 6 foot and 220 pounds, if I'm intimidating or what. But I do see a question for me. May I answer that about the military?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
So the biggest thing for me is that in the military, you you meet all kinds of people within your unit. So one thing that I love about United is their DEI, their diversity, equity, and inclusion. So if someone is from Iowa, where they don't meet people of different races or religions or etc., going into this type of career, you get that opportunity, and the world is your oyster, and it's just such a great thing. So that's how I feel about that.
I
Good,
will touch on that as well.
good.
That, I mean, I work with people that are from so many different walks of life, so many places in the world. I work with people that are from Asia, or people that are from Europe, or people that are from Brazil, and I kind of get a glimpse of these people's character and these people sort of who they are as people, and it's really cool. I think there's very few jobs in this world where you're constantly surrounded by people that are in completely different, cultural backgrounds than
Hmm.
you, and it's sort of a shared learning experience. And it's really fascinating. It's really, really a super cool experience.
Thank
Learning
you.
people. Yeah.
We have our next guest, Eli, here. Eli, I'll bring you in just a couple of minutes. I want to ask a question from the chat from Bliss Brian, if I'm saying that right. Just what are some of the qualities you think a person should have to go into this field? Should they be adaptable? Should they be, how would you, what is like sort of the ideal person who would be right for this type of job? I'll go to Liam first.
So it's not really a job, it's more of a lifestyle. So
Mhm.
Hmm.
flexibility is important, common sense is key, the ability to communicate, the ability to pause and think before you say something sometimes. Okay.
Hmm.
And it's just, there are so many great people that we work with. There's so many great people that I meet. I've made friends on flights. So that's my take, Ben. We want to give.
I think So the first thing a lot of these airlines say when you walk into training or when you are in the interview process is, are you willing to relocate? And that was a big thing that every airline has their bases, and some bases are open to people that are new, some bases are not. Some bases are have a lot of like junior people like myself and Liam. I'm still junior. I mean, we have people that have been flying for 40 plus years, but it's, are you willing to relocate? And are you willing to, it's honestly, are you willing to kind of let this job be your lifestyle in a way? And I think this job, it's for somebody that can roll with the punches, for lack of a better term, that delays happen, trip reassignments happen. Honestly, it doesn't bother me. I kind of like it. I mean, I think there's something really spontaneous and really beautiful about the spontaneity of it. I think somebody who's methodical, but somebody who likes putting on, every flight is an event, every flight is different, every flight has different issues. There's a different demographic depending on where you're flying. Is it spring break? You're going somewhere where everyone's going to a medical conference. There's just a different vibe and there's a different aura every flight, and it's up to you to gauge that. And then,
Hey, Ben, before Eli comes on, can I just say something I think is really important?
yeah.
So we work for what you call a legacy airline, okay? And United, Delta, American, there are airlines like Spirit and Frontier that are considered regional. And it's kind of important to know the difference.
Or low cost.
Not to brag, but it's more like varsity and junior varsity. So when you're hitchhiking, as I call it, when you fly, you get to fly free domestically and just pay taxes internationally on your own time. Our airline goes multiple places throughout the world, whereas those other airlines don't. So I just wanted to point that out. Thanks, Ben.
And there are, I mean, there's also real quick, there's the major, the legacy airlines, American, United, Delta. There's the low cost airlines like Allegiant, Spirit, Frontier. And then you have the regionals, which are like the smaller regional jets. You would see that they're their own companies, but then they're contracted out
Right.
to
Like
operate
Mesa.
airlines, Mesa, SkyWest, Air Wisconsin, GoJet, airlines like that. Most of the time, you wouldn't even know that, these people did not work for the legacy airlines. But there's something for everyone in this. There's people that spend their whole lives at regional airlines because they like the small airplanes, and typically you get your seniority faster and you get your quality of life faster. People like the low cost airlines like Spirit and Frontier because it's a whole different world in itself. So, I mean, we have the perspective of coming from a legacy airline, but there's something for everyone in this industry. And there's people that spend their lives at regional, or there's people that spend their lives at like Spirit and Frontier. And there's something for everyone, honestly, depending on what you like and depending on, if there's a base where you live or where you want to be or things like that. There's so many factors in this industry.
Thank you for that. So Ben and Liam, stay here, and we're going to bring in Eli, our career advice guru. And Eli, please introduce yourself to the group, and then give us some overviews on best practices for resumes. We'll go about 10 minutes. And I want to incorporate Ben and Liam into this from the perspective of applying, for example, to be a flight attendant, what we can draw from your presentation to go after the jobs they do. So go ahead. Oh, I can't hear you.
Nor can I.
We didn't, no, not yet. You came in the middle, so we didn't test your mic, but here, try it out, and we'll take another question while you work on I have a question, and we'll when Eli's ready, he'll pop in with his audio. So what kind of education do you need? Is a high school diploma enough? Do you need to have gone to college? How's that work? Either one of you, go ahead.
Liam, is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I started right after I graduated with my my 4-year bachelor's degree. Depending on the airline you want, it's always best to have a bachelor's degree. That being said, there are exceptions in that. Some of the regional airlines, might hire somebody who only has a high school diploma. And then, the person that goes to the regional, if they want to end up moving up, it's kind of questionable whether that helps get you into a main line, but I guess every experience helps. But I mean, I fly with people that have some 2-year degrees, but I think a majority of the younger people I fly with have bachelor's. Some people even have master's degrees. Not that it's needed for this, but the job promotes a lot of flexibility once you can master your schedule to do multiple things at the same time.
And I only have the high school diploma. I went to
Okay.
college, ran out of money and motivation. And I just want to touch on Olivia. Olivia, I'm sorry if I offended anybody with my comment about varsity and junior varsity. I'm just saying that because of the folks who work for the regionals. They've talked to me and they want to know how they can come to us, and that's kind of been their perspective. But I also want to tell you that my experience post-military, customer service jobs will help build your resume, no matter how minute that you might think they are. For example, I'm an usher for the Cleveland Guardians. I
Cool.
was years ago for the Washington Nationals. I even was in Australia for the Sydney Blue Sox. I became a ticket taker for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So any job, whether it's retail, any
Good
job where
advice.
you're going to be dealing with the public is good to build your resume.
Thank you.
Absolutely, I can
Eli, do
second
we
that.
have
Yeah,
you now?
can you hear me now?
There we
Yes.
go. All right. We're
All
back
right.
in business. Okay, so introduce yourself to the group and let's jump into your resume stuff.
All right, cool. So I'm an international career and leadership coach. I've been coaching thousands of people from over hundreds of countries and navigating life and career transitions all over the world. Most recently supporting dozens of Questbridge scholarship fellows in their life and career transitions as well, across some of the most prestigious universities, but even individuals who decide to take a different path outside of college. And, whether it was like a military pathway or go into boot camps to learn how to code or do anything like that. There are so many different types of career paths. And, I love listening to what everyone's sharing here about being a flight attendant and the, I guess, all of the transferable skills that you can gain throughout a career that help you land in these types of roles. So let's jump into a resume template or sample, right? And Danny, you have access to this sample. You could share it with the audience after the fact.
Oh, yes. I
So
will.
awesome. All right. So when you're crafting a resume, a lot of people just start with either the education or the professional experience. But the way we guide our clients is really to give a nice summary of who you are. And, most recruiters or anyone who's reviewing a resume only spend about anywhere from 6 to 15 seconds really like scanning a resume. So it's really helpful to have a bit of a clear idea of what you're going for. So in this case, it's a high school senior with an interest in organizational management, and then a little bit of a positioning statement to let the individual who's reading your resume know, well, what about your profile is relevant to the interest that you have. Then we have a bit of a highlight reel, just like we'll take the sports analogy here. And, the way they do highlight videos when you submit to, play professional sports and you have like your best plays. Think of this key accomplishment section as that, right? These are your best plays, and we're utilizing tangible pieces. So numbers, so helped 30 students, increase by a full letter grade, raised over $10,000 by organizing and managing logistics of a homecoming fundraiser, right? So we want tangible metrics with some type of result or impact that just show the value that you're able to add. And then areas of expertise. Now, these are areas that should be relevant to the job or keywords relevant to a job that you can find throughout a job description. You could take job descriptions, throw it into tools like ChatGPT and ask, hey, what are the keywords I need to have on my resume that you see in this job description? And then you would just add these here to showcase the relevancy of what you can do. While you're earlier in your career, especially while you're in high school, heading into college, education is really important, and you've done a lot of stuff in your educational career. So laying it out in that way where you might include your GPA, if you don't feel comfortable including it, you don't have to. List a few of the extracurriculars that you've done, and then the impact that you've had through there. If you've done years abroad or things that are a little bit different is good. You want to be different. You want to draw attention there. And then for professional experience, basically, whether you've volunteered or you've done some retail work, much like the panelists were saying, any job has transferable skills, but it's the way that you talk about these jobs in an interview that's going to showcase the relevance to your interviewer and the person who's going to be hiring you. So making sure that when you're talking about the things that you've done, they're relevant to the role that you're trying to get. And again, leveraging these metrics.
Yeah, and I want to just bring in
Please.
Liam on this because you just talked about you were, an usher, right, at like different professional sports, right? So in your case, you would want to talk about the number of people that you help during the course of a game or a season, right? So taking those skills that have on the surface would look like it has nothing to do with being a flight attendant, but actually you've helped hundreds or thousands of people
Sure.
with customer service challenges.
Right. And also, I would just like to add a great presentation, Eli, by the way. When Eli was talking about the key words, a lot of these companies have algorithms. So they will extract the resumes that are what they want.
That's right. Keep going, Eli. I just wanted to talk about
No,
Liam's experience.
that's great. Yeah. Ultimately, I mean, this template just gives you a good idea of how to put your best foot forward in terms of a summary that's relevant to who you are and what you do, right? At the end of the day, a resume is just one piece. You also want to position yourself well with maybe a cover letter. And this could be a formal cover letter. It could be an email that you write to someone who's hiring for the role. But effectively, you're just backing up your resume and giving a breakdown of where you came across the role. If you know the name of the individual, use their name. A little bit of a story here, a short, like 3-4 words, 4-sentence story that tells a little bit more about the relevance that you have for this position. Now, this is something that's unique to the way we structure cover letters, but you could basically in a job description look at, they usually have responsibilities or requirements for the job.
That's good.
So
Good.
you can basically list out the requirements word for word from the job description and then share how your experience helps exceed or meet those expectations. Now, the benefit of doing something like this is, like Liam said, the keywords are so important. So by optimizing the keywords and taking content right out of a job description and pasting it right into your cover letter, you're optimizing your keywords against that job description. So then you have a better shot of having your resume seen if you go through an online channel for application. And then you want to wrap up and ask for the meeting, ask for the interview, let them know that you want it, right? So again, this is something that will be shared with you as well. And if you want help kicking off a cover letter like this, you could always go into ChatGPT and say, can you help me turn my resume into a cover letter for this internship over winter break? And then you just paste in your resume and it's going to spit out some cover letter content. Now, you don't want to take it as is. You can keep putting prompts and tools like ChatGPT to say, can you shorten this and make it into just a 3-paragraph cover letter? So it's going to give you ideas of what to write. And then you could take it and put it in this format. And then there's Google Docs now has a bit more artificial intelligence as well, where you could go in and bulletize things, rephrase things, shorten them, elaborate. And I'm not saying don't write your own stuff. That is not what we're saying here, because people can feel the energy behind the words that you use. They have to be your words. It has to be your tone, right? But there are ways to kind of get you unstuck if you feel stuck when you're writing this content. So my hope that today through this short presentation, you have some tools and templates you can use. You have some ideas on how to make the most out of the tools that you have access to, and you could use them to level up your job search.
This is great stuff. Before I forget, Eli, can you please put the link to where you'd want to send people to check out your services in the chat, please?
Sure
And while
thing.
you do that, Ben, I want to ask you, because he's talking about at the high up in the cover letter, tell a little story about a time where you worked hard, you solved the problem. What would be if you were reviewing resumes for, one day you'll be in that senior spot, right? And you're going to be reviewing resumes for future flight attendants. What kind of example would you want to see from them? Is it how I handled myself in a stressful situation, how I worked quickly, how I was spontaneous? Like what would you want to know about them through something they already experienced?
I think so. I think one thing is that I guess we haven't really touched on because of how much, the service or the safety and the emergency training is customer service is very important as well. Ultimately, we are cultivating an onboard experience. I mean, flying is regardless of who somebody flies for, whether it's, a Frontier, a Spirit, a United, American, Delta, regional, ultimately you are the face of the flight. So something with customer service and being able to, troubleshoot difficult situations. Maybe you work at a drive-through, and you're used to dealing with things in a high stress situation, similar to like, we have 45 minutes, we have to serve 150 people.
Yes.
It could be something having to do with, maybe you babysat. I mean, it's something as simple as that.
Oh, great.
You can handle people really well. You can understand people from different walks of life. Maybe you volunteered in a nursing home and you can understand people of that demographic. Honestly, anything that can show that you're adaptable and that you've been pushed to a position where you felt challenged and you're able to resolve a situation. It can really be any situation. Maybe you clean quickly or something. Like some airlines, you clean the planes between flights. Luckily, not our airline, but sometimes they're responsible for that. But there's so many different aspects that fall into this job. Thinking on your feet. Maybe you did calls for a like donation or for a charity, and like that's getting somebody to do something. There's so many different
Great
aspects of this that can be tied into this, because during the day as a flight attendant, you are so many different people and you wear so many different hats, and you're constantly adapting to situations and
like a chameleon.
different people.
Yeah, Liam,
Yeah.
I'll give you the final word on that. If you want to impress the recruiting coordinator, how would you want to show yourself off?
The whole person concept. I mean, when I did my interview, I pointed out the fact that I was stationed in Europe for 10 years, and then I lived on multiple tourist visas in Australia for 2.5 years, that I respect and like people from all around the world. And oh, by the way, speaking of foreigners, if you're not taking a foreign language, consider it. If you want to work flights to Germany or Belgium, Holland, Amsterdam, etc., consider taking a foreign language, because there are specific positions where they target those languages. I met this one female friend who wants to be a flight attendant, but she doesn't see any opportunities yet. No, they don't want anybody who merely speaks English at the moment, she said.
Oh,
But I told her to look for career fairs. I got really lucky. This is crazy how I got into it this final time. It was an ad on Facebook, and then I was down in Virginia by happenstance, and I thought it was spam, and I thought, come on, this company is too reputable to be advertising on Facebook. But just in case this is the wave of the future, and they're looking for the younger people and whatnot, so I ended up taking 2 different trains, a bus, and I walked a mile. I did a commute for 2.5 hours because I wanted it that much.
that's a great story in itself. And we're all building our own stories every day. So I want to thank Ben and Liam and Eli for sharing your time with us. Awesome advice, great stuff, up and down. Can I see some hands up from the students and teachers? Hands up in Zoom to thank them for their time. Ben's about to shoot off to San Francisco, right? And
Yep.
so have a safe travels. Thank
I
you,
will
Jenny.
say also
Yep.
real quick, once you get off the ground, not for kind of a pun, but once you get off the ground with this job, it's addicting and you just want more and more. And it doesn't all happen in one day, and it takes years to sort of progress and you kind of get better and everything. But it is one of the most addicting things. Again, it's a lifestyle, and definitely next time you're on a plane, look at what the crew is doing, because there's so much going on, and
We will never
honestly,
look
it's
at
amazing.
flight attendants the same way again.
Definitely. And maybe
Thank you for
maybe
the
we'll
opportunity.
maybe we'll see you all in several years. Who knows?
Yeah, keep an eye out. Thank you all for being here. Hope you have a